Kia ora koutou, ko Glenhead aho, no Te Wairua o Te Moana Nui Ocean Spirit Trust. As a trust, we believe very much in local community-based management of our coastal ecosystems, and we agree wholeheartedly with the fundamental tenet of ecosystem-based management principles that ecosystems actually do an exceptional job of managing themselves. And our role, therefore, is to manage our behaviours and activities in relation to those ecosystems. We believe the people best placed to do that are local communities who actually have a relationship with these ecosystems, especially those who have intentionally fostered relationships of respect and reciprocity. And the first step in successful community-based management is monitoring, but the monitoring needs to be appropriate for community use. Ideally, it should be able to provide real-time, direct feedback on the ecosystem's current state of health, along with any impacts our activities might be having. Now, it does need to provide enough detail to inform management decisions, but importantly, it also needs to provide community with a sense of empowerment and confidence in their ability to understand and have care for the ecosystems they inhabit. And traditionally, the peoples of Oceania have always related to their ocean home in this way. Management decisions were often, and still often are, made through direct feedback from the ecosystems themselves. This is partly empirical. We notice a decline in a target species, for example, but in large part, it's also qualitative, energetic, and intuitive. We're connecting to the Maori, the energetic life force that animates all things. In this sense, we aren't just observing or measuring, rather, we're entering into deep relationship with one another and another living being, a who, not an it. This is at the core of the Hauora Moana monitoring program. The methodology has evolved out of research in the Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, investigating the differences and similarities between traditional ecological knowledge and modern scientific understanding, and how they inform management decision making. The research also looked at how much correlation there was between how people perceived the expressive qualities of reef ecosystems. A qualitative methodology called free choice profiling was used to conduct the research, and in many ways, the Hauora Moana survey method is a modified version of free choice profiling. The survey itself is carried out by a minimum of 4 people. It can be on snorkel or scuba, depending on depth, access, skill level, etc. And while we follow all standard safety procedures such as buddy systems, communication protocols, and so on, it's really important that people don't share their impressions while they're actually conducting the survey. Now, each person has an underwater slate with the appropriate indicators for the type of ecosystem they're surveying. And on the screen, you can see the standard indicators we use for our reef sites in Northland. These, of course, can be tailored to suit different ecosystems as well as community-specific needs or interests. And rather than counting or measuring, we are endeavouring to get an intuitive sense for each indicator by treating them as questions that we're asking, but from the reef's perspective. Now, for example, if we're looking at snapper, we're asking, are there enough for the health and well-being of the reef, rather than are there enough for me to harvest? And we can see how that relates to management processes later on. Once we feel we have an answer, we put a pencil mark along the minimum maximum line that fits with our intuitive sense for that indicator. And actually, sometimes people prefer to wait until they're back on shore before marking their slates. Once everybody has completed their slates, we move on to the consensus process. In a way, we can think of this as equivalent to the statistical analysis of the survey. But rather than calculating an average of replicates, the consensus process is aiming to deepen our understanding of the current state of things. And one of the strengths of this survey method is that there are at least 4 sets of eyes conducting the survey and 4 unique experiences of the reef's Maori and state of health. This helps eliminate personal bias or agendas, and through the consensus process, can also go some way to mitigating shifting baseline syndrome. Now, there are some simple but very important rules for successful consensus making. Everybody's voice is important and everybody's experience of the reef is of equal value. There's no right or wrong to be argued or defended. Rather, through the act of deep and respectful listening, each person gains a deeper understanding of what others experienced. We also find that these consensus discussions are a great way to deepen ecological knowledge and understanding. Just to give you a sense of what a survey is like, let's have a look at one of our coastal sites. And this is Parangarahu, or Horseshoe Bay. It's a truly stunning place, or at least on the surface. But how is Parangarahu faring below the surface? So let's go for a quick dive. Now, this video footage was taken in July of 2018 during our winter survey. While you're watching, see if you can kind of get a sense for the Māori and overall health of this place at this time. And just as an exercise, give the overall health a rating out of 1 to 10. So with 1 being critical and 10 optimum health. Now, of course, our survey team had much more time in the water and covered the whole survey area. But here's how they assessed the state of things back then. Now, as you can see from the graph provides a kind of visual health index, but it's still in a qualitative and intuitive way. So how does this inform management decisions? Well, of course, at present here in New Zealand, we don't really have that much community-based management in our marine space, although thankfully we're starting to see some changes happening and a bit more happening. But in many parts of Oceania, this is still the norm. Now, this colour-coded health index is something that we developed together with communities in North Whātei in Vanuatu. And the colour-coded zones provide clear and consistent pathways to management choices and actions. And as we can see here, for instance, the green healthy zone indicates that we can maintain our current activities or potentially even possibly slightly increase harvest. So in other words, that green healthy zone represents the ecosystem's resilient buffer in a healthy state. The yellow caution zone indicates varying degrees of imbalance. And actions here could include increased monitoring to highlight any trends, investigating causal factors, for example, land use that might be causing siltation or eutrophication, perhaps overharvesting of certain species. And of course, in that yellow zone, this could also include precautionary reduction of harvesting, perhaps some limited bag limits, closed seasons, etc. Now, when we get down to the red critical zone, This indicates immediate and decisive actions are needed. These could, of course, include things like immediate rahui, an immediate halt to adjacent land activities, for instance, while remedial steps are taken to address the impact, and those sorts of things. So there we are. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but I hope this has given you a feel for the Hauora Moana program. And if you'd like to explore it a bit further, then please feel free to contact us, and we'd love to chat with you about it. So thanks very, very much for your time.